My wife, Ava Sterling, made the cover of Forbes. At the celebration gala, she was a vision in a wine-red gown, radiant and commanding. She stood with her company's CEO, Dylan Reed, accepting congratulations like a queen surveying her court. And me, her husband? I was at home, staring into a sink full of greasy, overflowing water, trying to snake a clogged drain. My phone lit up. A text from my mother-in-law. Alex, today is yours and Ava's 3rd anniversary. It's also her company's party. Where are you? You should be the one standing by her side. Look at yourself. Are you even worthy of her anymore? Attached was a photo. In it, Ava and Dylan stood together. They looked like the perfect power couple, a match made in heaven. The way Dylan looked at Ava was filled with an undisguised adoration. I shut off the phone, wiping my grimy hands on my apron. 3 years ago, when Ava and I got married, she was just a recent graduate with a dream, running into one wall after another. I turned down a position at a top research institute in Germany to move back with her to this city, Pittsburgh, and become a stay-at-home husband. She'd told me then, Alex, you're sacrificing so much for me. I swear, I'll work hard and make you the happiest man in the world. Now, her company, Orchestrated, was a unicorn in the AI sector, valued at $10 billion. She had done it, and I had become the most glaring stain on her otherwise perfect life. Ava came home after midnight, smelling of gin and an unfamiliar perfume. She tossed a manila folder onto the coffee table. Her voice was ice, devoid of any emotion. Alex, I want a divorce. I stared at the neatly prepared divorce agreement. It felt like a frozen hand had clamped around my heart, squeezing until I couldn't breathe. Why? My voice was a raw whisper. Why? She let out a short, sharp laugh, as if I'd just told the world's stupidest joke. Her beautiful eyes were laced with contempt. Alex, take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Have you done a single meaningful thing in the last 3 years? Besides cooking, cleaning, and waiting for me to come home, what can you even do? I need a partner who can stand with me, a soldier to fight by my side, not a house husband I've kept, who I can't even have a real conversation with. She pointed at the TV, where a business news channel was replaying an interview. Dylan Reed was on screen, speaking eloquently about market trends. Look at Dylan. He's a Stanford grad, a Wall Street elite. He helps me analyze the market. He strategizes with me. He helps me build my empire. And you? What can you talk to me about? The price of groceries? Which brand of toilet cleaner works best? Every word was a knife, expertly twisted into my heart. I watched her silently, this woman I had loved for 7 years, from college through our marriage. Her face was still so beautiful, but her eyes were those of a stranger. It turns out when someone climbs high enough, the dust she used to stand on becomes an eyesore. I was that dust. You can have the house and the car. Her tone was one of final, dismissive charity. She pulled a bank card for her purse. There's $5 million on this. Consider it compensation. After this, we don't owe each other a thing. Compensation. She was buying out our 7 years, buying out everything I had given up for her for $5 million. What if I don't agree? I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. Ava's patience snapped. Alex, don't make me lose the last shred of respect I have for you. Pleading and dragging this out. It's just pathetic. Dylan, who had been standing silently behind her like a well-mannered spectator, finally stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Ava. He looked down at me, a faint, condescending smirk on his lips. Mr. Hayes, I think you misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation. This is a notification. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. Ava is a public figure now. Her image can't afford any blemishes. And you, forgive me for being blunt, but your existence has become the single greatest obstacle to Orchestrated growth. For the future of the company, and for Ava, please have the decency to just leave. A blemish, an obstacle. Watching them, my heart turned to ice. I once thought that if I gave up the world for her, she would give me everything she had. I finally understood. The moment I gave up my world, she kicked me out of hers. I slowly nodded. I picked up a pen and signed my name on the cold, sterile document. Phoenix, I agree to the divorce. Relief washed over both of their faces. I looked at them and suddenly I smiled. But before I go, I said, there are a few things I need to take back. Ava frowned. You have 3 days to move your things. I won't. No. I cut her off, my gaze shifting past her toward the study. It's not that stuff I want. I've come to collect the soul of Aura. Ava stared, confused. Behind his glasses, Dylan's eyes flashed with a flicker of alarm. What are you talking about, Alex? Ava's voice was sharp with annoyance. I built Aura Tech from the ground up. I am its soul. What does that have to do with you? Is that so? I stood up slowly and walked toward the study, each footstep a drumbeat against their sudden anxiety. The core technology of Aura Tech, the system that took your company from $0 to $10 billion. Project Chimera, are you really sure? It belongs to you. For the first time that night, the color drained from Ava's face. Project Chimera was the bedrock of her company, widely recognized in the industry as a revolutionary AI interaction algorithm. Its near-perfect self-learning and logical inference capabilities were the reason Auratech had left all its competitors in the dust. 3 years ago, it was the initial framework for this very system that had secured Ava her first round of angel investment. The world thought it was the magnum opus of the brilliant young Ava Sterling. Only she knew the truth. What are you trying to say? Ava's voice trembled. She subconsciously grabbed Dylan's sleeve. I ignored her, walking straight into the study and opening the old, dust-covered desktop computer she'd always complained about. It was a machine I'd built myself in college, the only thing I'd brought with me after signing the letter that declined the offer from Germany. The computer booted slowly, its old fan whirring to life, a sound completely out of place in the sleek, modern mansion. Ava and Dylan followed me in, watching me as if I were a clown in his final, desperate act. Alex, stop playing games. Let's just end this amicably. It's better for everyone, Dylan said, his voice oozing superiority. You're not seriously going to claim you created Chimera, are you? A guy with a bachelor's in computer science from state school? Who do you think would ever believe that? He was right. On paper, my life was painfully ordinary. I just smiled and said nothing. My fingers flew across the keyboard. It was a speed they had never seen before. My hands were a blur, and on the screen, endless lines of code streamed past like a waterfall. What are you doing? Ava shrieked. She recognized that interface. It was the root codebase for Project Chimera, her company's most guarded secret. But how? Accessing the repository required 3-factor dynamic authentication and biometric clearance. This piece of junk wasn't even connected to the company's intranet. How could he possibly get in? You're stealing corporate secrets. Dylan's face went pale as he fumbled for his phone to call the police. Stealing. I stopped typing and turned to face him, my eyes as cold as a winter grave. Is it stealing if I'm just taking back what's mine? I hit the final enter key. In that instant, at the Aura Tech headquarters downtown, the massive data visualization wall, the one they boasted would never go down, flickered and died. A moment later, a single line of text appeared on the black screen in burning, golden letters. Pandora Protocol activated. Owner, the architect. Simultaneously, every device running Project Chimera, from the internal company servers to the products sold to clients, was frozen by a pop-up window. Inside the window was a single digital signature. A signature that pointed to one name, Alex Hayes, and beneath it a single line of text. To my beloved Ava, a wedding gift. The date stamped below, it was our wedding day. In that single moment, the entirety of Auratech was paralyzed. Ava stared at me, swaying on her feet, the blood completely gone from her face. The architect, she stammered, her voice shaking with a terror so profound it seemed to rattle her bones. You're the architect? The architect. In the global underground tech community, the name was legend. He was called the God of Code. It was rumored that he, alone, had built the foundational logic framework for the world's most powerful AI and had released a portion of it as open source. More than half the AI companies in the world now used his framework as their starting point. But no one knew who he was. He was a ghost in the machine, a myth. Of course, Ava knew the name. Project Chimera was built upon the open-source framework the architect had released years ago. She'd even created a special task force within her company, pouring millions into trying to crack the rest of the framework's code, or, failing that, to find the mysterious architect himself. She never, in her wildest dreams, imagined that the god she'd been searching for was the man she'd just cast aside, the house husband, the blemish she was trying to scrub from her life with $5 million. How is this possible? Ava muttered, her mind on the verge of shattering. Why? Why did you lie to me? I never lied. I shut down the computer and stood up, looking at her with a newfound calm. On our wedding day, I gave you the complete source code for Chimera. I told you it was my wedding gift to you. I also told you I didn't want to live that old life anymore, that I just wanted to build a simple life with you. I promised you I would stand behind you and make you the brightest star in the sky. You're the one who forgot. My voice was soft, but each word landed like a sledgehammer on Ava's heart. She remembered. That night, 3 years ago, I had given her a flash drive. I had said those exact words. But she was so consumed by her startup ambitions, she'd assumed it was just some code I'd stayed up all night writing to help her out, a nerdy gesture of love. She never imagined that the contents of that drive had the power to change the world. She thought her $10 billion empire was built on her own talent and hard work. She was wrong. From the foundation to the spire, every last brick had been laid by me. She wasn't a queen. She was just a thief, living in a castle I built for her, blinded by her own vanity. No, that's not right. She shook her head frantically, grasping for a lifeline. Dylan, tell him. The upgrades, the optimizations for Chimera. You and your team did all of that, right? Dylan's face was a mask of horror. He stared at me, beads of cold sweat dotting his forehead. He knew better than Ava just how impenetrable the core of Chimera was. Their so-called upgrades were nothing more than cosmetic renovations on the magnificent skyscraper I had already built. And now, the owner of that skyscraper had come back to evict the tenants. Mr. Hayes. Dylan's voice was strained, and he forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. There must be some misunderstanding. You're the architect. You're a legend. This thing between you and Ava, it's just a small marital dispute. There's no need to take things this far, right? Orchestrated is Ava's life's work, but it's also yours. He was trying to appeal to my emotions. Too little, too late. My life's work. I walked toward him, staring him dead in the eye. When you were using Aura's databases to illegally transfer assets offshore, when you were selling user data to the highest bidder, did you ever stop to think whose life's work you were destroying? Dylan's pupils contracted. What are you talking about? I didn't do that, he yelled, but the panic in his voice betrayed him. No. I smirked and sat back down at the computer. My fingers danced across the keyboard again. This time, the projector on the study wall hummed to life. Projected onto the wall were damning images. Offshore bank transfer records, encrypted folders, and surveillance footage of Dylan making secret deals with foreign agents. He had used his authority as CEO, under the guise of system maintenance, to build a back door into Project Chimera. He was a rat, greedily emptying the grain from the silo day after day. He thought his tracks were covered. He never realized that the architect of the building sees everything. The Pandora Protocol wasn't just about ultimate control. It was a recorder. It logged every dirty hand that tried to touch, to defile the temple I had built. This is all fake. You fabricated all of this. Dylan made one last desperate attempt. Fabricated? I scoffed. My private server has a complete millisecond by millisecond record of every single data fluctuation in Orchestrated database for the past 3 years, including every IP address you used to log in and every command you ever executed. I've already sent a copy to my contacts at the FBI's cyber division. I imagine they'll want to have a chat with you very soon. As if on cue, the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. Dylan collapsed to the floor, his face ashen. Ava watched it all unfold, staring at the screen full of evidence, at the partner she admired so much, who was, in reality, a wolf ready to devour her whole. Then she turned to look at me, the house husband she despised, the only person who could expose the truth and save her from ruin, even as her empire crumbled. The immense, crushing weight of irony and regret washed over her like a tidal wave. Alex, she reached a hand out to me, her voice breaking into a sob. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Can we not get a divorce? Can we start over? I stepped back, avoiding her touch, my face in a motionless mask. Ava, the moment you said I wasn't worthy of you, The moment you put a $5 million price tag on our relationship, we were already over. I picked up the signed divorce agreement and the $5 million bank card. You were right about one thing. Your image can't have any blemishes. So, as of today, the architect has no connection to you or Ortech. As for Project Chimera, I paused, looking at her devastated face, and delivered the final, cruelest blow. Consider it my parting gift. I destroyed the master key for the Pandora Protocol. This meant Project Chimera was now a ghost town. It would still function, but it had lost its soul. It could never be updated, never be improved. It was a beautiful but dead shell. Its future was to be slowly rendered obsolete by the market, until it rotted away to nothing. I built it with my own hands, and now I had buried it. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the house I'd lived in for 3 years, but had never truly felt like mine. Behind me, I could hear Ava's heart-wrenching screams, mingling with the cold, authoritative voices of the police. I didn't look back. The sun was rising. Alex Hayes, was free. The day after I left, an earthquake hit the tech and financial worlds. Ortech CEO Dylan Reed, detained on multiple charges, including corporate espionage and embezzlement. Ortech's core system, Chimera, paralyzed by unknown attack. Mysterious coder, the architect, surfaces. Forbes cover girl, Ava Sterling, falls from grace. $10 billion empire collapses overnight. Sensational headlines dominated every news outlet. Ortech stock was halted 1 second after the market opened. Partners terminated their contracts, clients demanded massive refunds, and banks came to collect their debts. The magnificent $10 billion tower had turned to dust in an instant. I didn't read any of it. I checked into a cheap motel and slept for 24 hours straight. It was the first time in 3 years I had slept so soundly. When I woke up, I used a $5 million card to buy myself a new set of clothes and a cheeseburger and fries from a classic diner. Then, I walked into the most luxurious office building in the city center. "Hello, sir. Do you have an appointment?" the receptionist asked politely. "I'm here to see the man in charge," I said. "And you are?" "Alex Hayes." A moment later, a balding, middle-aged man came jogging out to greet me, his face plastered with a sycophantic grin. His name was Leo Vance, the building's property manager and a forgotten classmate from college. His own startup had failed, leaving him in massive debt. I had anonymously funded him, allowing him to take over this failing office building. "Architect, I mean Mr. Hayes." "Sir, why? Why did you come in person? You could have just called. I would have taken care of anything you needed," he stammered, so flustered he was nearly bowing. I smiled. "Leo, relax. I'm here to lease an office." "Lease? Sir, you must be joking. Pick a floor, no, pick a building. I'll clear it out for you immediately." "No need. Just the largest one on the top floor." I pointed to the corner office with the best view. "Also, I need you to help me register a company." "A company? What's the name?" I thought for a moment. "Let's call it Prometheus." Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. I was going to use my technology to create a new era. An era free from constraints, completely under my control. 3 days later, Prometheus Labs was officially incorporated. Total employees, 1. The first thing I did was release Prometheus 1, 0 foot to the world. It was the fully evolved version of Project Chimera, the culmination of 3 years of lonely nights, conceived in my mind and coded on my old, dusty computer. If Chimera was a magnificent city, Prometheus was an entirely new planet. On the day of its release, I didn't do any marketing. I just updated the personal blog of the architect, which had been dormant for 3 years, with a single line. "The world is reborn." The single sentence sent shockwaves across the globe. Every tech giant, every venture capital firm went into a frenzy. Countless calls and emails flooded the inbox of my newly formed one-man shell company. They offered astronomical sums, all begging for a license to use Prometheus. I didn't accept any of them. I was waiting for the right vessel to carry my new world. During this time, Ava called me hundreds of times and sent even more texts. They were all variations on the same theme: regret, apologies, begging me to forgive her, begging me to come back. "Alex, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Or I can't survive without you. I can't survive without you. Please come back." The company is yours. I don't want anything. I just want you. Can you really throw away 7 years of our lives because I was temporarily blinded by greed? Please, just give me one more chance. I didn't reply to a single one. A dead heart feels no pain. A shattered relationship can't be pieced back together. The only message I did reply to was from my mother-in-law, or my ex-mother-in-law now. After I left, she had cursed me daily, calling me ungrateful, a user who abandoned her daughter after making it big. Then, the identity of the architect was revealed. Her attitude did a complete 180. Alex, sweetie, it was Mom's fault. Mom was blind. You and Ava are a match made in heaven. Every couple has their fights. Please come back. I'll make you your favorite pot roast. I replied with only 6 words. Keep the pot roast for yourself. I wanted nothing more to do with them. However, I had underestimated their shamelessness. One day, as I was refining the firewall for Prometheus, my ex-in-laws burst into my office, a swarm of reporters in tow. Alex, you heartless monster. Our Ava is sick in the hospital because of you, and you have a nerve to be here starting a new company. My ex-mother-in-law shrieked, collapsing onto the floor and beginning to wail. You destroyed her company. You destroyed our family's life. If it wasn't for our family taking you in, would you be where you are today? This is how you repay us, my ex-father-in-law yelled, jabbing a finger at my face. The reporters' camera flashes were blinding. They had clearly been paid off. Microphones were shoved in my face, the questions sharp and accusatory. Mr. Hayes, as the true creator of Project Chimera, why did you destroy the company you built with your ex-wife in such an extreme manner? Rumor has it you were jealous of the close relationship between Ms. Sterling and Mr. Reed, and this was an act of revenge. Is that true? Is this new company something you've been planning all along, using Orchestrated as a stepping stone for your own ulterior motives? They were trying to paint me as a vindictive, scorned man who would burn everything down out of jealousy. They were using the media to corner me. It was a disgusting, malicious ploy. I watched the circus before me, at the ugly, contorted faces of my former in-laws, and felt no anger, only disgust. I ignored the reporters and walked over to my ex-mother-in-law. I crouched down, looked her in the eye, and asked calmly, Ava's in the hospital? Which one? What's wrong with her? She was taken aback for a second. Then her wails grew louder. What do you think is wrong? You did this to her. She has severe depression. She cries all day. The doctor said if this continues, she might not make it. Depression? I nodded. Okay, I understand. I stood up and faced the cameras. I spoke clearly, each word deliberate. First, I did not destroy Orchestrated. I simply reclaimed my property. The Pandora Protocol was a kill switch clause written into my initial contract, a clause Ms. Sterling chose to ignore. Second, my private life is my own. As for Dylan Reed, he has been arrested, and I trust the justice system to handle his case. Third, I paused, a cold smile touching my lips. Since Ms. Sterling is so gravely ill as her ex-husband, it is my duty to visit her. So, I invite all of you in the media to accompany me to the hospital right now. Let's all go and see just how severe Ms. Sterling's depression really is. My words stunned everyone into silence. A flicker of panic crossed the faces of my ex-in-laws. They never expected this. I wasn't defending myself. I was going on the offensive. This wasn't part of their script. Phoenix, you set yourself. My ex-mother-in-law scrambled to her feet, her voice dripping with venom. Let's go. Let everyone see what you've done to our poor daughter. She thought that once I saw Ava's frail condition at the hospital, the pressure of public opinion would make me soften, make me compromise. She had made a fatal miscalculation. I wasn't going to compromise. I was going to rip their final mask to shreds. At UPMC Presbyterian Hospital, in a top-floor VIP suite, we found Ava lying weakly in bed. She was hooked up to N4, her face as pale as a sheet of paper. A distinguished-looking doctor was at her bedside, checking her vitals. The moment we entered, Ava's eyes welled up, tears streaming down her cheeks. Alex, you finally came to see me. She struggled to sit up, only to fall back against the pillows, a perfect picture of fragile beauty. My ex-mother-in-law rushed to her side, hugging her and crying. My poor baby, look at you, you're wasting away. And this heartless man is only now showing his face. The reporter's cameras furiously captured the touching reunion. "Ms. Sterling, how are you feeling? What do you have to say to Mr. Hayes, now that he's here?" Ava didn't answer them. She just stared at me with her tear-filled eyes, her voice a faint whisper. "Alex, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Let's start over. Please." Her performance was, as always, flawless. The old me would have been overwhelmed with guilt and taken all the blame. But now I just found it pathetic. I ignored her emotional plea and walked directly to the doctor examining her. "Dr. Evans, thank you for your hard work," I said with a polite smile. The man's body visibly stiffened. He looked up, a flash of panic in his eyes, which he quickly masked. "I'm sorry." "Do I know you?" he asked, feigning confusion. "You don't remember me?" My smile widened. 6 months ago, you were about to have your medical license revoked for academic fraud. I was the one who intercepted the whistleblower email and anonymously sent the ethics committee proof that your mentor was embezzling research grants. Your career was saved, was it not? Dr. Evans' face went as white as Ava's. I don't know what you're talking about." He blustered. "You don't." I pulled a small flash drive from my pocket and held it up. "On this drive is proof of every kickback you've taken from pharmaceutical reps for the last 6 months. Every time you've prescribed expensive, useless drugs to patients, and even the falsified medical records you created to help your father-in-law's company commit insurance fraud. What do you think would happen if I gave this to the hospital's review board? Or perhaps directly to the press?" The doctor's legs gave out, and he nearly collapsed. He looked at me as if he were seeing a ghost. Who are you?" "Who I'm doesn't matter," I said, putting the drive away and patting his shoulder. "What matters is that right now, you're going to tell everyone here, with your professional and medical integrity, exactly what is wrong with Ms. Sterling. How severe is her depression?" I put heavy emphasis on the word depression. The room fell silent. Every eye was on Dr. Evans. The reporters weren't stupid. They could smell a massive scandal. My ex-in-laws panicked, rushing forward to pull me away. "What are you doing?" "Leave the doctor alone." I didn't move, my cold gaze fixed on Dr. Evans. Sweat was soaking through the back of his shirt. He weighed his options. On one hand, total ruin and prison time. On the other, simply angering the now-bankrupt Sterling family. It wasn't a difficult choice. He took a deep breath, pushed Ava's parents aside, and spoke clearly into the sea of cameras. "Ms. Sterling, she does not have depression. Physically, she's healthy, just suffering from minor malnutrition and nervous exhaustion, likely due to poor diet and lack of sleep. With proper rest and nutrition, she'll make a full recovery." The room exploded. "No depression? Then what was all this?" She was faking it, playing the victim to gain sympathy. The reporters went into a feeding frenzy. The camera flashes a constant strobe. "Ms. Sterling, why did you fake an illness to deceive the public? Are you aware that your actions constitute creating fake news? Did your family orchestrate this entire charade to try and save your company?" Ava's parents' faces turned a deep, furious red. They pointed a shaking finger at the doctor, speechless. You traitor." Ava stared in disbelief. The doctor she had paid a fortune to act his part had just betrayed her on live television. Her last shred of dignity was being publicly torn to pieces. "No, that's not true," she shrieked, clutching the bed sheets. "I'm sick. My head hurts. My heart hurts. Alex, why are you doing this to me? Why did you have to destroy me? I hate you. I hate you." Her tearful accusations now sounded utterly ridiculous. I watched her melt down without a flicker of emotion. When she had exhausted herself, I finally spoke. "I didn't destroy you, Ava. You destroyed yourself. You destroyed our trust. You destroyed your integrity as a business leader, and you destroyed your own moral compass. You hate me because I'm no longer the man you could control and discard at will. You can't accept that everything you were so proud of was built on a lie. You can't accept that the dust you looked down on was your own foundation." I leaned in close, my voice a whisper only she could hear. "I forgot to mention something. The reason Aura Tech grew so fast, the reason you got so much government support and so many bank loans, it wasn't because of your PR. It's because 5 years ago, I wrote the underlying defensive logic for this country's Aegis cybersecurity firewall. So, The name The Architect is on a few very important lists in Washington, D.C. They weren't giving favors to Ava Sterling. They were giving favors to me. Ava's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Her body began to tremble violently, a tremor born of pure, absolute shock. If learning my identity as the architect had filled her with regret, this truth shattered the very core of her pride. Her network, her resources, her capital. From the very beginning, none of it was because of her. It was all because of me. She was like a spoiled child who thought the world revolved around her, only to discover, after the person who'd been quietly giving her candy walked away, that she had nothing at all. Uffed, she coughed, a spray of blood erupting from her mouth, staining the white sheets crimson. This time, the damage was real. I stood up straight, my face impassive, and plucked a tissue from the box to wipe a tiny speck of blood from my cheek. Then, in front of everyone, I took out the $5 million bank card. This card was Ms. Sterling's divorce settlement to me. I am donating the full amount to the city's children's hospital. I then held up the signed divorce agreement. I signed this document of my own free will. I walked away with nothing and waived any and all claims to the assets of the now bankrupt Aura Tech. As of today, Ms. Sterling and I are even. We have no further connection. I placed the card and the agreement on the bedside table. I didn't spare another glance at the woman who had now passed out in her bed. I turned and, under the intense gaze of countless reporters, walked out of the room with my head held high. My life, from this day forward, no longer contained the name Ava Sterling. The fake illness scandal was the final nail in the coffin. Ava and her family became a national laughingstock. Aura Tech was forced into liquidation, buried under a mountain of debt and lawsuits. Their mansion and luxury cars were auctioned off. Even her parents' retirement accounts were frozen. They fell from the heavens into the gutter overnight. I heard later that Ava did have a genuine breakdown and was admitted to a long-term care facility. Her parents, fleeing their debts, disappeared in the middle of the night. And I, Alex Hayes, founder of Prometheus Labs, became the hottest commodity in the world of venture capital. I turned down offers from every megacorporation that wanted a controlling stake, instead choosing a domestic investment firm with a clean reputation and deep resources, Patriot Capital. The person running Patriot Capital was a woman named Isabella Rossi. She was young, maybe 30, but possessed a poise and sharpness that defied her age. We met for the first time in my office. She didn't start with talk of valuation or equity like everyone else. Instead, she brought me a file. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice cool and clear as she pushed the file across my desk. "We did some digging into the Aura Tech bankruptcy. It seems Dylan Reed's offshore dealings had a deeper connection. He wasn't a mastermind. He was just a pawn." I opened the file. My eyes widened. Inside was a detailed report on an international hacker-for-hire organization known as The Abyss. Their M.O. was to target companies like Aura Tech, firms with groundbreaking technology but imperfect security. They would insert a corporate spy like Dylan to steal the tech, bankrupt the company, and then acquire the patents for pennies on the dollar. It was a ruthless, predatory industrial chain. "Our intelligence suggests their next target is likely your Prometheus project," Isabella said, her gaze serious. "And their methods will be far more aggressive, far more reckless than what they used against Aura." I closed the file and looked up at her. "So, you want to partner with me for more than just a return on investment?" A small smile played on her lips. "Of course not. Patriot Capital has a duty to protect our nation's core technologies. If we invest in Prometheus, we won't just provide capital. We'll provide top-tier security, legal support, and a policy shield." To put it simply, she leaned forward, her eyes locked on mine. "We'll be your shield. You'll be our sword. Together, we can cut this cancer out for good." I looked into her eyes. I didn't see the greed of a banker. I saw the resolve of a soldier. I smiled. "Deal." I needed a powerful ally to fight the enemies lurking in the shadows. Isabella Rossi and Patriot Capital were the perfect choice. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of growth for Prometheus Labs. With Patriot Capital's backing, my team expanded rapidly, attracting the best tech talent in the country. We not only built out the Prometheus ecosystem, but also developed specialized subsystems for finance, medicine, transportation, and more. Prometheus Labs became a true giant, its influence spreading into every corner of the national economy. I became the new darling of the tech world, a constant focus of media attention. But I never let my guard down. I knew that a pair of eyes was always watching from the darkness. The attacks from the abyss came sooner and more strangely than I had anticipated. They didn't launch a direct assault on my servers. They knew that in cyberspace, the architect was invincible. They went after the people around me. My CTO was blackmailed with threats against his family, coerced into trying to steal our source code. My HR director was compromised with money and sex, tricked into hiring their spies. Even the kid who delivered my takeout was bought, paid to slip a psychoactive drug into my lunch. Their methods were relentless and depraved. But thanks to Isabella, we were prepared. The security net we had woven caught every one of their plots before they could hatch. The people who had been compromised faced the consequences. But we both knew this was just the beginning. The true leader of the Abyss, the hidden figure known as the Abyss Master, remained a ghost. He orchestrated everything, but left no trace. Until we found him, we would never be safe. Then, one day, Isabella burst into my office, clutching a DNA report. Her face was etched with a gravity and a sadness I had never seen before. "Alex, I think we've been wrong about this from the very beginning." She slapped the report down on my desk, her voice hoarse. "The Abyss might not be a criminal enterprise. It's a tool for revenge." I picked up the report. It was a comparison of two DNA samples. One belonged to Dylan Reed. The other belonged to a name I had almost forgotten. Ava Sterling. Their DNA was a 99.9% match. The conclusion: they were half-siblings. My mind went blank. Dylan and Ava were brother and sister? How? I had known them both, seen them interact. Ava had never once mentioned having any siblings. "Now look at this," Isabella said, handing me another, highly classified file. The title read, "Investigative Report on the Project Morningstar Research Institute Security Breach, 20 years prior." I flipped through the pages, my heart sinking lower with each one. 20 years ago, Project Morningstar was one of the nation's most important classified research initiatives, focused on cutting-edge information technology. My father, Dr. Robert Hayes, was its director and lead scientist, and the fathers of Ava and Dylan, Dr. Marcus Sterling, was the deputy director, my father's best friend and partner. At the most critical phase of the project, the lab's core data was leaked to a hostile foreign power. The loss was catastrophic. All the evidence pointed to the deputy director, Marcus Sterling. During the investigation, Dr. Sterling took his own life. His wife suffered a mental breakdown and passed away shortly after. They left behind 2 young children, who were sent into the foster system and disappeared. My own father, Dr. Robert Hayes, was removed from his position due to the catastrophic failure. He died a few years later, a broken man. The last thing he ever said to me was, "Alex, remember this. People are more complex than code. Don't ever trust anyone completely." After that, I closed myself off, immersing myself in the world of code. It was safer there. It was why I was content to be a stay-at-home husband for 3 years. It was the furthest I could get from the complexities of people. I always thought it was just a tragic accident. Today, I learned it was a conspiracy. And the victims were not just my family, but the Sterlings as well. Dylan, born Dylan Sterling, and Ava had no idea they were related. After their parents died, they were adopted by different families and lived completely different lives. It was the Abyss that found them. They told Dylan that the man who destroyed his family was my father, Dr. Robert Hayes, who had framed Marcus Sterling to take all the credit for their work. They filled him with the poison of revenge and trained him to be an elite corporate spy. Then, they orchestrated his meeting with Ava, a girl with a similar talent for computing, but a complete ignorance of her own past. Their plan was to use Dylan and Ava and her company Ortech to build a financial base. At the same time, the 2 siblings, unaware of their connection, would become pawns in a grander scheme of revenge. Step 1. Destroy Ortech, turning Ava and me against each other. Step 2. Have Dylan steal Project Chimera, forcing the architect out of hiding. Step 3. The final move. Use my lingering guilt and feelings for Ava to find a weakness and then destroy me and Prometheus Labs completely. It was a plan of breathtaking cruelty. They weren't just trying to destroy me. They were using 2 orphan children as their weapons, forcing them to torture and destroy each other. The Abyss Master. I looked up at Isabella, a fire raging in my eyes. Who is he? Why would he do this? Isabella's expression grew dark. She spoke a name, each syllable heavy with dread. He was the 3rd core member of Project Morningstar, the only one who emerged from the incident not only unscathed, but who rose through the ranks. The current director of SIS, Julian Thorne. Julian Thorne. The name was like a lightning strike to my brain. Of course I remembered him. He was my father's most brilliant student. When I was a kid, I called him Uncle Julian. My father treated him like a son. Dr. Sterling treated him like a nephew. In my memory, he was a kind, gentle, brilliant man who doted on me. After the incident, it was he who comforted both our families, promising he would find the truth and clear their names. I couldn't believe it. The architect of that tragedy, the devil hiding in plain sight, was him. Why? I clenched my fists, my knuckles turning white. Why would he betray them? Jealousy. Isabella's voice was cold steel. Thorne was brilliant, but he was never on the same level as your father or Marcus Sterling. He was Salieri to their Mozart, forever living in their shadow. He couldn't stand it. He had to prove he was the best. So he conspired with foreign agents, stole the data, and perfectly framed Dr. Sterling, who trusted him completely. Then he preyed on your father's grief and sense of responsibility, letting him die with the weight of that failure on his shoulders. He built his entire career on the graves of 2 geniuses, using their stolen research to become a national hero and climb to the highest position of power. And the Abyss is his private army, used to eliminate anyone who knows the truth and crush any rising talent that could threaten his legacy. My heart felt like it had been plunged into a vat of liquid nitrogen. I finally understood my father's last words. The people you trust the most are the ones who can hurt you the deepest. So his real target was always me, I whispered. The moment I emerged as the architect, a legend in the digital world, Thorne's timer started ticking. My very existence was a threat to him. He was afraid I would become like my father, or even surpass him. He was afraid that one day I would uncover the truth of what happened 20 years ago. So he set this elaborate, cruel game in motion to destroy me. And Ava and Dylan, poor, tragic Ava and Dylan, were just puppets in his twisted play. Where is Thorne now? I stood up, all hesitation gone, replaced by a cold, sharp resolve. He's coming here tomorrow to inspect Prometheus Labs, Isabella said. An official security audit from CISA. I let out a bitter laugh. An audit, a pretense to plant a virus and seize control of my system. He was finally making his move. He's not coming alone, Isabella added, her expression grim. He's bringing a third-party security firm, the Ark. They have a reputation for being neutral, but they're an asset of the Abyss. They'll work with Thorne to produce a damning report, destroying our reputation and finishing us for good. A pincer movement, I said, the cold smile returning to my lips. He really thinks he has me cornered. He's underestimating me, and he's underestimating what my father and Dr. Sterling left behind. I walked to the safe in my office, entered a long, complex password, and opened the heavy door. Inside was a single, unmarked black hard drive. It was the last thing my father gave me. He told me to never open it unless it was a matter of life and death. It was time. I connected the drive to my server. A file appeared on the screen. It was named Project Nuwa. In Chinese mythology, Nuwa was the goddess who mended the broken sky. Inside was everything. The original data from Project Morningstar, and a complete record of how Julian Thorne had stolen it and framed Marcus Sterling. Encrypted emails, audio recordings of his secret meetings. Everything. My father knew. He had suspected Thorne all along, but he didn't act. He knew Thorne was already too powerful, a national hero. A direct accusation would have been dismissed, and it would have tipped Thorne off. So he chose sacrifice. He used his own disgrace and Dr. Sterling's suicide to make Thorne drop his guard completely. And he hid all the evidence on this drive, leaving it for me. He was waiting for me to grow up, for me to become powerful enough to face his true enemy. The truth, 20 years late, brought tears to my eyes. My father was never a failure. He was a warrior, a strategist who played the long game. With his own life, he paved my path to victory. Isabella, I said, wiping the tears from my face. I'm here. Tomorrow, invite every major news outlet you can find. I'm going to prepare a gift for Director Thorne that he will never forget. And one more thing. I need you to arrange a meeting for me. With who? Ava Sterling. At the wellness center, I found Ava sitting by a window, staring blankly at the dead leaves outside. She was skeletally thin, her eyes vacant, a hollow shell of the vibrant woman she once was. My presence didn't even register. What do you want? She asked, her voice raspy. Come to laugh at me? Or to tell me how many billions Prometheus is worth now? Her tone was laced with bitter self-loathing. I ignored her sarcasm and placed the DNA report and the Project Morningstar file in front of her. I came to tell you who you really are, and to show you that you've been hating and loving all the wrong people. At first, she was dismissive, but when her eyes fell on the DNA report, her entire body jolted. She saw her name, Dylan's name, and the cold, clinical conclusion. No. Impossible. She snatched the report, her hands shaking, reading it over and over again. I pushed the Morningstar file toward her. She saw the name of her father, Marcus Sterling. She saw her mother's name, and she saw the story of the terrible injustice that had destroyed their lives. My father, he wasn't a traitor. Her tears finally broke, and she clutched the files, sobbing. He was a hero. He was framed. All the pain, confusion, and grief she had suppressed for 20 years erupted in that moment. I waited until her sobs subsided. Then, I told her everything. About Julian Thorne, about the abyss, about how she and Dylan were used as tools of revenge. Her crying softened into a low, agonized moan. So, I was working for the man who destroyed my family. She began to laugh, a sound more painful than any scream. And for him, I hurt my own brother. And I hurt the only person who ever truly protected me. You. I'm the biggest fool in the world. She slapped herself hard across the face. I can't face my parents. I can't face Dylan. She buried her head in her hands, consumed by guilt. You can see him, I interrupted. Dylan wasn't the mastermind. He confessed and is now a witness for the prosecution. He's being held in a secure location. He remembers everything, and he's waiting for you. I took a small digital recorder from my pocket. This is a message from him. I press play. Dylan's voice, hoarse with regret, filled the small room. Ava, little sister, I'm so sorry. I was blinded by hate. If I ever get the chance, I want to tell you in person. Welcome home. Ava completely broke down, her body shaking with uncontrollable sobs, like a lost child who has finally heard a familiar voice. It was a long time before she looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. Alex, thank you, she choked out. And I'm sorry. This time, the apology was real. The past is the past, I said. But tomorrow, I need your help. Me? She gave a bitter laugh. What good am I now? You're essential, I said, meeting her gaze. You inherited your father's genius. Your understanding of AI is second only to mine. And the research Thorne stole was based on the theories of our fathers. In other words, you're the only other person on this planet who truly understands his technological weaknesses. Tomorrow, Thorne is coming for me. I need you to be my second sword in the digital world. We will do this together. We will get justice for our fathers. A tiny spark ignited in Ava's dead eyes. It was the light of hope, the light of redemption. Okay, she nodded, her expression hardening with a resolve I hadn't seen since her best days. But this time it was tempered with purpose. Brother, I'll help you. The word brother was awkward on her tongue, but it severed the last, tangled threads of our past. We were no longer ex-spouses. We were soldiers, fighting for our family's honor. The next day, the main hall of Prometheus Labs was set up for a massive press conference. Julian Thorne arrived with his entourage from CISA and the experts from the Ark, walking through a sea of reporters like a conquering hero. He still looked the part of the respectable, scholarly public servant. He walked up to me and shook my hand warmly, the picture of a proud mentor. Alex, my boy, you've done so well. Your father would be so proud of you today. He boomed, his voice full of false sincerity. You're too kind, Director Thorne. I replied with a tight smile. Thank you for taking the time to give Prometheus Labs a thorough checkup. Of course, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. National cybersecurity is of the utmost importance. No room for error. After the pleasantries, the audit began. The ARC's CTO, a smug man named Jack, inserted a special flash drive into our main server port. Mr. Hayes, this is our latest AI security diagnostic. It will scan your system's root code for any potential vulnerabilities, Jack explained arrogantly. Rest assured, the process is completely transparent and safe. I nodded and gestured for him to proceed. The massive screen in the conference hall displayed the source code of Prometheus, a vast, beautiful sea of data. The diagnostic program began to run. Thorn and Jack exchanged a subtle, triumphant glance. They thought their Trojan horse was in. Once the diagnostic was complete, ultimate control of the entire Prometheus system would be secretly transferred to them. I and my empire would be theirs. The room was silent, everyone holding their breath. Isabella stood beside me, her hands clenched. I gave her a reassuring look. Then I walked to the podium and picked up the microphone. While we wait for the results, I'd like to show everyone something. I clicked a button on the remote. The screen switched from the scrolling code to the cover page of Project Newa. On it was a photo of my father, Robert Hayes, and Marcus Sterling, young, brilliant, and full of hope. The smile on Julian Thorne's face froze. Alex, what is the meaning of this? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. Nothing, I smiled. On this important day, I just want to take a moment to remember the heroes who gave their lives for this country's cybersecurity 20 years ago. I told the story of Project Morningstar. I talked about the friendship between our fathers, their genius, their dream. Then my tone shifted. But unfortunately, the stories of heroes are often tainted by the poison of traitors. The images on the screen began to change. Encrypted emails, audio recordings, offshore bank records. The evidence appeared, piece by damning piece, each one a dagger aimed straight at Julian Thorne. The room erupted. Director Thorne, is this evidence authentic? Were you the real traitor in the Morningstar incident? Thorne's face was a thundercloud. Absurd. This is all fabricated. Slander, he roared. Alex, you are attacking a public official with baseless accusations. This is a criminal act. His security detail started moving toward me. A criminal act. I laughed. Don't be so hasty, Uncle Julian. The show is just getting started. I snapped my fingers. Ava now. In the next second, a piercing alarm blared from the server. On the big screen, a giant, crimson virus icon appeared. Below it, a line of text. Abyss Trojan Horse activated. Data transfer in progress. Target. Offshore IP XXXXX. Jack's face went white. That's impossible. Our program wouldn't. Your program was quarantined and replaced the second you plugged it in. A cool female voice announced over the hall's speaker system. It was Ava. From her room at the wellness center, she was fighting alongside me. The Trojan horse you're seeing now is a gift I modeled after yours, sent directly to your boss. What? Thorne's eyes widened in horror. This gift contains a complete record of every dirty deal, every traitorous act you've committed as the Abyss Master. My voice rang out, cold as a judge's sentence. Oh. And the transfer target isn't an offshore IP. It's the encrypted servers of the Department of Justice and the NSA. Thorne screamed, lunging for the server to pull the plug. But it was too late. Data transfer, 100%. No. A desperate, inhuman howl escaped Julian Thorne's lips. The empire of lies he had spent 20 years building had crumbled to dust. But I wasn't finished. Julian Thorne, 20 years ago, you stole the work of our fathers. Today, their children will show you just how insignificant your achievements truly are. I turned back to the audience, to the cameras, to the world, and made my final move. I, Alex Hayes, founder of Prometheus Labs, and the architect, hereby announce that effective immediately, the Prometheus system will be permanently free for all American businesses and individuals. Furthermore, we are making the entire underlying source code open to the public. The hall exploded into chaos. Permanently free. Fully open source. It was an unprecedented move. It meant that the nation's AI technology would take a quantum leap forward overnight. We would be free from the shackles of foreign tech monopolies. And the technology that Thorn and the Abyss had schemed, murdered, and betrayed to acquire was now, in an instant, utterly worthless. I had checkmated the thief in the most absolute way possible. Thorn collapsed, muttering, "You're insane. You're a madman." Maybe, to a selfish monster like him, perhaps I was. But my father and Dr. Sterling were not. Their dream was to build a free, open, and secure digital world for their country. Today, I had simply fulfilled their last wish. Federal agents swarmed the hall. Thorn, Jack, and every Abyss operative in the room were taken into custody. A storm was about to break over Washington, D.C. I stood in the blinding flash of the cameras, feeling a sense of peace I had never known. I saw Isabella in the crowd, giving me a smile of profound respect and relief. And for a moment, I could almost imagine my father and Dr. Sterling, somewhere far away, smiling down with pride. After the storm, life found a new normal. I transitioned Prometheus Labs into a nonprofit foundation dedicated to advancing information technology for the public good. I was no longer a CEO chasing billions, but a simple evangelist for technology back to my roots. Ava, for her role in taking down the Abyss, was granted immunity. She and her brother Dylan, with what little was left of their family's assets and some help from me, started a small cybersecurity firm. They dedicated themselves to helping small businesses defend against predators like the Abyss. It was their own path to redemption. We never saw each other again. Some stories are best left with their endings. 6 months later, I was visiting my father's grave when I saw an unexpected person. My ex-mother-in-law. She had aged decades, her hair now completely white. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a deep-set weariness. She placed a bouquet of daisies on the grave next to my father's, Dr. Sterling's, and bowed deeply. "Robert," she whispered, her voice choked with tears. "I am so sorry. I was blind. I wronged you, and I wronged my own children." She turned to me, her eyes filled with a bottomless regret. "Alex, I know it's too late for apologies. I don't expect you to forgive me. If you ever have time, maybe you could check in on Ava. She just sits all day, staring at that old computer you used to have." I stood in silence for a long time. Finally, I shook my head. "It's over. I'm not a saint. The damage was done. Some scars never fade. Not forgiving her was the last kindness I could offer." I turned and walked away, the afternoon sun casting a long shadow behind me. A new chapter of my life had begun. I had a new purpose, new friends, a new journey ahead. But sometimes I still think about those 3 years. I think about that man in the apron, in the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of cooking oil. I don't regret it. That was the price I paid for love. And it was the medal I earned, transforming from a boy into a man. The world is vast, and people are complex. But I finally understand what it means to be strong. It isn't about wealth or status. It's about seeing all the darkness and depravity the world has to offer, and still choosing to walk toward the light.